Welcome back, IP friends, to another episode of IP series with Rita. Yep, my name is Rita Amarichinda, and I talk about intellectual property from copyright, trademark, patent, industrial design, trade secrets, plant variety, and geographical indication. Now, if you're a first-time listener, welcome to my podcast. Don't forget to check the last 90 episodes, and especially the last episode where I discussed the Tom Brownie case and Adidas over the 3 logo stripe and the 4 stripe logo. Very insightful, guys. For my returning listeners, you guys already know the drill. Thank you guys so much. It means a lot to me that you guys always come back to listen to me talk about intellectual property, and also encourages me. I see the likes, the retweets, the favorites, everything that you guys do to support me. But yeah, let's go into today's conversation. So I was inspired to talk about this topic for today after I attended a creative event. It's called the Creative Hustle event, which was organized by the British Council and Startup South in collaboration with Women in Port Harcourt. Now, I did find the sessions really insightful. However, I just kind of felt like they weren't hitting the mark for me, because from where I'm sitting, I'm looking at commercialization, copyright, trademark, how you can, explore all of this and build a fantastic creative business, especially in this, user-generated content era, like when you have the likes of TikTok and the metaverse and the Web3s and, all the beautiful platforms out there. I mean, 2 speakers did, they kept touching and going for me, and that was Hilda Dokubo and Honey, who is an OAP. I think when she hit the mark for me was when she started talking about, the roles that female creatives can explore in terms of building a successful business online. So here I am today, not focusing on the females, but generally talking about the role of copyright in the creative sector, the role of copyright in the creative industry. So I'm going to be focusing on everything copyright. I will take my time to break down the various types of copyright and how it works for the creatives. Now, when I talk about creatives, I'm not just referring to the entertainers, the artists. It's a whole world, like an umbrella chugged in under the creative industry. So why copyright? Because copyright is like your best and the number one form of intellectual property mechanism you should be considering when creating your intellectual property or building your intangible assets. So you may be wondering, Amari, why copyright? I mean, why not copyright if I'm going to talk about how creatives can commercialize, exploit, and maximize their God-given talent? I mean, you weren't giving that talent for fancy, were you? So no. So basically, copyright amongst all the intellectual property rights or mechanism is the only one that grants you automatic protection from the moment you express your original work in a tangible or fixed medium. So you are protected instantly. However, there are certain jurisdictions that provides, or countries rather, there are certain countries or territories that provides or states that you should register your copyright. For instance, in the US, in Nigeria, what we do here is we deposit copies of our creative works with the Nigerian Copyright Commission. And I do understand that creatives want to make profit. So one phrase that stood out for me in the session was when one of the speakers, can't remember her name right now, but she stated, using social media, there is no limit to profit making. And I continued by saying, but that can be cut short when you don't protect your intangible asset or have a long-term goal to be in the creative business permanently, which can get you better deals like licensing deals, publishing deals, adaptation deals, any of those bundle of exclusive rights. It gives you access to all of those. The bundle of exclusive rights are like your medium to making money. You have the right to reproduce, to adapt, to translate, to publish to the public, communicate to the public, to broadcast it, all of those beautiful things out there. And as a creative person, you need to take note of certain legal areas seriously other than intellectual property. But I'm going to talk about that later on. But right now I'm going to focus on the aspect of creatives getting out of their comfort zone using intellectual property. So you have authors who are either musicians or write books, or are sculptors or artists. That's people that draw artworks. They are broadcasters. They create sound recording. That's a producer. They are songwriters. They are screenwriters, script writers, actors, musicians. Trying to remember, but a whole lot of persons are under this big umbrella, and each of them has their own role and bundle of rights at the end of the day. So we're going to go through the checklist for creatives and creative business owners. Basically, now, first of all, you need to be aware of the terms and conditions of the platforms that you are using. Don't opt for generic private policies. Don't opt for generic cookie policies or terms of use or return policies or documents that vendors agreements. Don't opt for anything generic. Make sure that the contract you will be signing are specifically tailored to your needs. You also need to learn to watermark your photographs or videos to discourage people from infringing or limit people from creating derivative work. So this episode is going to be I think it's going to be fully packed, because I will be talking about certain things that maybe I have talked about silently while analyzing the case, but this is like a copyright basic or foundation class. And the next one, you need to understand there's a difference between public domain when a work has elapsed its term of duration or protection. For instance, certain copyrighted work, or let's say copyright protection in Nigeria, lasts between 50 years to 70 years after the author has died. So for as long as you're alive, plus after you have died, you're entitled to 50 to 70 years depending on the copyright work. Then you need to understand the principle of fair dealing. So when someone is like, oh, I did not mean to infringe, I mean, if you're monetizing, you're already infringing, basically, because fair dealing is the non-commercialization of a copyrighted work. You're using it for private use, research purpose, to criticize, to create a parody. And while doing that, you're going to actually acknowledge the creative owner, the person who actually owns the work. Now, let's take it back a bit. Section 10 of the Nigerian Copyright Act provides that the first person who creates the work is acknowledged as the author. However, in an instance where you are employed or hired or commissioned to do the work, authorship and ownership reverts or is being transferred to the person that commissioned or employed you, as long as there's a written contract. I mean, don't do oral contract, creatives. If you're a creative or if you know a creative, please share this episode with them. Advise them not to do oral agreement. It's going to end in premium tears. Then there's another way you can also use copyrighted work without anyone accusing you of infringing on their work, and that is when you decide to use a Creative Commons license work, which provides free legal tools for creatives to use. So I'm going to go through the various types of Creative Commons works. So sometimes if you're Googling For pictures, you see there's a watermark licensable, like you can license that, or it's free for you, something like that. Or you see a CC by SA, or any abbreviation attached to a particular creative work. So there are about 6 types of Creative Commons license, but I'm just going to mention, let's see, like 3. So first on my list is attribution, which is CC BY, which permits creatives to adapt, tweak, and build on an already existing work which can be monetized. Then you have attribution non-commercial. Now, this type of license, the original author of the work must be credited. That means you must acknowledge them. It allows you to also tweak, remix, or build on that work. Then you have the attribution share alike, which is CC by SA. It's kind of similar to copyleft, which allows content creators to use other people's work so long as they use the identical copyright term adopted by the original creator, who must be credited. You see that for CC license, you are required to always acknowledge the person that created the work in question. For instance, if you're going to, let's say I put my podcast under a CC license, I want to use my podcast for something, you have to credit me. It also allows for adaptation, remix, without any restriction. So here is a bonus from me, and that is the attribution non-commercial. I think I mentioned that already. Yeah, I think I did. So no bonus for you guys, but just Google out the 6 types of Creative Commons licenses and you are set to go. Now recall I talked about types of copyrighted works. So the first off will be literary works. So if you're a book, you write books, you do anything in a written form, those are literary work that can be protected. If you are an artist, you're a songwriter, your work falls under the musical work, which is divided into the sound recording and the composition. Then you have the artistic work, you have the cinematograph work for filmmakers, you have sound recording for producers, for OAP, then you have broadcast for radio stations, for podcasters like me. And yeah, that's like the list under our Nigerian Copyright Act. Now, one of the foundations or requirement to enjoy copyright protection in Nigeria is that first, your work must be in a fixed or tangible format that has been originally expressed either as a book, a broadcast, a sound recording, a cinematograph work, a picture, sculpture, whatever it is. However, there's a subsection of the section 1 of the copyright which says that a work shall not be ineligible for copyright by reason only that the making of the work or the doing of the act was involved in an infringement of the copyright in some other work. So what I'm trying to say is that while you're creating your content, you need to verify that 1, your copyright is not ineligible. It actually enjoys copyright protection. However, it should not be involved in any kind of unauthorized use or reproduction or commercialization or exploitation of the exclusive right granted to a copyright owner. Now, a copyright owner has economic right to earn. They also have the moral right to dictate how their work can be used. So it cannot be used for any purpose other than what they had initially created it for. Now, there's another type of rights which is exclusive to artists or performers, called the performing rights. And I'm going to talk a little bit about folklore and a little bit about maybe traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expression. I don't know. Hopefully, I am in a good mood to talk that far. But yeah, let's get into the exclusive rights that each of these eligible works enjoy. Now, know that if you own a copyright, you're only protected in Nigeria. There's no international treaty that gives you like an international copyright protection. However, Section 5 of our Copyright Act provides that copyright shall be conferred on every work if on the day of the first publication at least one of the authors is a citizen of Nigeria or domiciled in Nigeria, is a body corporate established by or under the laws of Nigeria, or is a party to an obligation to a treaty, or the work was first published in Nigeria, or in any country where Nigeria is a signatory to any international agreement or treaty, or by the UN or any of these specialized agencies, or by an organization of African unity, or by the Economic Community of West Africa. Now, it goes further to state that whether or not Nigeria is a party to a treaty or any other international agreement, you are required to show a certificate from that commission as proof before you can enjoy copyright protection. So it's not for you to come and say, oh, I already own a copyright in Ghana or in the EU or in America or in South Korea. And yeah. Okay. Or any jurisdiction at all, you have to come with proof of documentation stating you already have jurisdiction with the jurisdictional protection in that territory before coming to Nigeria. Same with other IPs where you're trying to take advantage of the priority given to you when you want to do like a registration. You're opting to do an international registration. So yeah, but all of this is just education now. This is not like practical or legal advice. I'm just giving like copyright 101 basics that everyone should know when it comes to every creatives rather, because I was inspired by that event I attended, and I wanted to share it more. Like, I wished I was on that panel, but unfortunately I wasn't, and then there wasn't so much time given for me to elaborate on how creatives can actually monetize their content in this digital era. So yeah, please guys, take advantage of my free copyright class today. Now, if you own a literary or artistic work, these are the exclusive rights that you're entitled to. You have the right to reproduce your work in any material form, to publish the work, to perform the work in public rather, to produce, reproduce, perform, or publish any translation of the work, make any cinematograph, film, or record in respect of that work, distribute it to the public for commercial purpose, copies of the work by way of a rental, lease, hire, loan, or any similar arrangement, broadcast or communicate the work to the public by a loudspeaker or any other similar device, especially now when we have boom boxes and mini speakers and all of those things, or make an adaptation of the work, or any translation or an adaptation of the work, as the case may be. So if you're an author, you write books, you are a musician, a songwriter, a producer, an illustrator, a ghostwriter, but yeah, just so that you fall under this category. Then the next category is for the artistic work. So you sculpt, you do art, basically any kind of art, visual art. You're an artist, not like a musician artist, but then you are an artist. You are an artist. This is for you. You have the right to reproduce your work, you publish it, you include any cinematograph film. So for instance, now I'm going to make mention of this movie, The Living in Bondage Part 2, where an artist has stated, she was a lady actually, she said she had been originally hired to do some graphic works or artwork for the film, form of logos and design and all of the things. And she, at some point, her contract was terminated, but they ended up using her work in the movie. So that's an instance where you see artworks being used in the movie sometimes. And I think I talked about it during the pandemic, where it was a huge case because there was a lot of tagging Ramsey Noah, the producers and directors of the movie, until I think Kate Henshaw stepped in and it was resolved without parties going to court. undisclosed terms of settlement. Really, guys, why do you come on Twitter and rant and then we don't really know what's going on? But yeah, that's an example. Sometimes you find out that if you're watching a movie or say a series or a music video, you see that some artworks are blurred. I do recall watching a South Korean series a couple of months ago, and it was like an art gallery, and one of the pictures was actually blurred. So that's an instance because they are trying to prevent any form of the infringement or lawsuits that they are using someone's artwork without their consent. You can also make an adaptation of the work, kind of similar to the rights that a literary or musical work enjoys. Now, if you work in the film industry, pay attention. Oh, your exclusive right includes you making a copy of your film. Basically, you can cause the film, so far as it consists of visual images, to be seen in public. If it has any sound attached, can also be heard in public. So all these maybe original sound recording or musical performance. I mean, I've seen a couple of behind the scene where you see there's like a choir behind a recording studio making some sounds or singing some songs, original songs, and I'm blown away. Like I literally say that I am interested. Like my interest basically is behind the scenes. I like BTS because it shows you the creativity that is put in and invested, how people express this work to make them seem so real. So I'm always psyched up about BTS. Either it's the making of the team sound, the sound recording or soundtracks, the list of songs, the actors themselves performing, behind green background, the I mean, I don't know. So I think I came across one this morning where what's this called, and they sculpture your body, and then they create body mask for you. I mean, some of your actors, you see, that's not their real body, although some of them actually build up to that. But then I think I'm digressing, so I'm just going to stop here. But let me just continue to say you can also make recording in any part of the soundtrack associated with your film. By utilizing that soundtrack, you can also distribute your film to the public for commercial purpose, either through rental, lease, hire, loan, or any other similar arrangements out there. Now, what the law provides is that under section 2, it says the doing of any of these acts shall be in respect of the whole or substantial part of the work, either in its original form or in any form recognizably derived from the original. So in all of this conversation, you still need a bit of permission, consent, authorization to do whatever it is you want to do. So there's a whole or substantial part. So I don't know how many of you recall the SpongeBob case I analyzed last year, where the creators were like, oh, this is we're paying homage to the guy, we're not imitating anything. It was initially taken down by the company that owns the right to the movie, but after a while it was brought up on YouTube. I haven't checked again to know how many views it had, but as at the last time I checked last year, it had over 1 million views and counting. So you see that while it might be really insightful or exciting for you to want to reproduce or use any part of a movie, it's very important that you also go as far as getting consent, which now brings us to our generational issues where people are creating fan works. Fan works are basically imitation, and you find out that some companies or some movie companies have policies and guidelines that fans can go through while creating it. But I don't think I've seen any fan film guidelines in Nigeria. And I did see one for Star Wars when I was reviewing, and then a couple of others. But then copyright in a work of architecture shall also include the exclusive right to control the erection of any building. So if you're an architect, Mbok Ejo, please, Biko, Zimbabwe. I just spoke my mom's dialect. But I'm begging you guys, take your architectural design seriously. I know there was this case, it was a London case where one of the buildings had an issue and they needed the consent of the architect to access that drawing before. I don't know, it was a bit complicated, but I was like, nah, they fuck up for Nigeria. Sha." Sorry guys, I had to use the F word, but yeah. So let me just go back into, so it says copyright in a work of architecture shall also include the exclusive right to control the erection of any building which reproduces the whole or substantial part of the work, either in its original form or any form recognizably derived from the original, but not the right to control the reconstruction in the same style as the original of the building to which the copyright relates. Nah, long thing be. I'm going to actually copy this out and put it out there so that those, I mean, if you're an architectural student or you have an interest in building houses, especially those in the real estate, you guys need to, I mean, you commission an architect to do a drawing for you and then you go ahead to go and reconstruct that same style. It's not your copyright, fam. It ends. It really isn't your copyright. So make sure that you are taking note of all of this. Yes, so moving on to nature of copyright in broadcast. So as a broadcaster, a podcaster, an OAP or a radio presenter, you have the right to re-record or rebroadcast the whole or substantial part of your copyright in the broadcast to communicate your broadcast to the public, either a whole or substantial part of it. So sometimes, if I don't know how long you guys have been following me, but I know when Anchor introduced that 30-second short videos or under 1 minute short videos, I take advantage of it. And then there are other apps too that make provision for that. So I can always rebroadcast or communicate or publish my content to the public. So for this, it says either substantial part of a TV broadcast, either in its original form or any form recognizably derived from the original. So kind of like a rerun or a flashback. So just see like a throwback for broadcasters. You can also distribute to the public for commercial purpose. Now it goes further to say the copyright in a television broadcast shall include the right to control the taking of still photographs from the broadcast. Dry your ears. I mean, there's sometimes where you see TV broadcasts and someone includes a still photograph. Someone's asking like, did they get permission? Are they supposed to use that? What are the laws that applies to still photographs and all those things? What our law says is that the copyright in a TV broadcast shall also include the right to control the taking of still photographs from that broadcast. It also has exceptions as well in the second schedule. Let's see if I can read one part of it. Yeah, so it says the right conferred in respect of a work by section 5 does not include the right to control the doing of any act mentioned in the said by way of fair dealing. So non-commercial purpose where you're not making money, we identify as fair dealing for the purpose of research, private use, criticism, review, or reporting of current events. Subject to this condition, if the use is public, it shall be accompanied by an acknowledgement of the title of the work and its authorship, except where the work is incidentally included in a broadcast. The doing of any of the aforesaid acts by way of parody, caricature, inclusion in a film. I think you wanted to write in a film or in a film of a broadcast of an artistic work. Yadi yadi yadi. Very long, very very long. Finally, broadcasting of works incorporated in cinematograph films. Now, where the owner of the copyright any literary, musical or artistic works authorizes a person to, show their work in a cinematograph film or broadcast it, the owner of the copyright shall, in the absence of any express agreement, written agreement, be deemed to have authorized it. I mean, this is a bit tricky for me though, like, because I'm always like, okay, I need to have my client sign this agreement, but having section 9 say whether or not it's a contract, it is deemed or assumed that copyrights and authorization consent has been given that the work being incorporated in the cinematograph film or the broadcast, TV broadcast or whatever it is. Now it says Notwithstanding, Section 1 of the section where a broadcasting authority broadcasts a cinematograph film in which a musical work is incorporated, the owner of the right to broadcast a musical work shall, subject to this act, be entitled to receive fair compensation from the broadcasting authority. Una dey hear? If you're a broadcasting authority and you share a musical work um which is attached to a cinematograph film, please make sure that the owner of the musical work, that is the artist or the label or the songwriter or the producer, get their fair share from the broadcasting authority. I mean, what are the collective societies actually doing? And are creators really aware of these rights? I don't know. But I think I'm just going to stop here. Pretty much done with all the eligible works and the exclusive right attached to each of these. But we're now going to go back into our main conversation. Like, what is the role of copyright in the creative industry? So guys, you won't believe what just happened. You won't believe what just happened to me, but I'm just going to skip that and just get straight into my conversation. Okay, so let's continue. Talking about how creative business can step out of their comfort zone by trying to enforce their rights or claim authorship. So remember I talked about moral rights. These are non-transfer. You cannot transfer that. You have the right to object and seek relief to any kind of distortion, mutilation, or modification, as the case may be, or derogative works, anything that will harm your reputation as the copyright owner, as the copyright owner. You also have the right to share in proceeds, which are also not transferable. Then talking about assignment and license. Assignment is you giving a third party the authorization to do certain responsibility attached to your bundle of exclusive rights. Yeah. And it has to be in writing. So it's going to state the geographical location or area where the assignments can work, the period of the copyright, and that you're only authorized to do certain rights, exclusive rights, that is attached to the copyright owner, and it must be in writing. Then you have the licensing, the exclusive license, which also has to be in writing. Take note that both the assignment and the non-exclusive license cannot go into effect unless it's in writing, strictly in writing. Whereas for non-exclusive license, it can be inferred, like your conduct might give the person the idea that okay, you have agreed that they should use your work. Okay, you talk say make I use and make I just drop small something. You might see that happen a lot between artists and producers who don't sign split sheets. Like, and my guy say make we make a run am. When money start to come, I will collect this percentage. But can you really trust the person's word? Nobody really knows. They have oral agreements in an instance where, let's use the script slash screenwriter story that was shared early this year. I think I talked about it on Twitter, and I did like a carousel about it. Let's say parties had a conversation. Okay, I use your script to do XYZ, blah blah, oral. But then there's the more authentic one for me, which is writing. A written assignment agreement, a written non-exclusive agreement. So you're not the only person I'm giving my sound recording or my beats to. You're not the only person I'm giving my script to. I'm giving my script to different people from different jurisdictions to do their own translation adaptation, as the case may be, but everyone's going to pay me my royalty at the end of the day. Then in an event where you have multiple contributors, say in a song or in a book or a film, trying to think of something else, but yeah, those are the ones that come from my boy. Yeah, everyone has joint interest in either part of the work or the whole of the work. It all depends on what parties. Okay, now if they have interest in the various copyrights in a composite production, that is to say maybe two or more persons, an assignment or license may be granted or made in respect of future works or existing work in which the copyright does not yet subsist. So I'm giving you the right to do XYZ now, and also future work. So for instance, now we're talking about Web3 and metaverse. I'm giving you my right to create works in the metaverse. You get, but it has to be in writing. Basically, it has to be, and this is not transferable. Okay, it shall be transmissible by operation of law as a movable property, where tangible assets are, transferred from one person to the other, from one person to the other. Yeah. So I hope I've made myself clear on that. That was what I recorded all of this and time to save. I didn't see it, and I was like, hoo-hoo. But anyways, we move right. So I'm going to share a couple of tips that I think creative entrepreneurs can use, can leverage their intellectual property or intangible assets to grow their creative business. First of all, your ideas are not protected unless it's translated or adapted, created or converted or innovated into a fixed tangible format. For instance, your DIY books, your design, your logo, basically name it. Creative work. Remember the eligible list of work I mentioned? Yeah, those are the things that we want to see. Not, oh, I have this idea to do XYZ, to write this script, to create this short video, this skit, or movie, or assist trending now audio reels, original audio reels, and you never do it, and someone else does it. And then there's also another trend I'm noticing where user generated content are being, they're not monetized per se, but someone takes the initiative to further develop it into a copyrighted work, or they don't know that they're doing a trademark version of it, because when you're not affiliating it to a brand or linking it to a source of good of some sort, but then the idea is there. So that tells you that what the person has done is transferred that idea that was put out there. So for instance, is the LOP video that has been trending for a couple of days, and I mean, we still have to vote on Saturday. We really do need to vote on Saturday. Well, that's an example. I've seen the t-shirts written LOP. So LP basically is LOP, that stands for Labour Party, which I'm supporting. I mean, most Nigerians are supporting. I mean, we're tired. But moving on, then there was the case of the help me, help me, help me. What was this Davido short phrase now? Can't remember. But I've seen that trend over the years where something goes viral. Oh my god, what a life, now a sticker. And then this conversation starts to come up. Okay, is there like an IP value to these? What's IP elements or IP angle? I try not to delve into some of these cases, but the LP one kind of stood out for me because one, I watched that video and I really liked it. I mean, so it starts from the person that recorded the video to the guy actually saying or singing the song. Kind of reminds me also of that young boy. I thank you for sunshine, all those things, and then you're thinking, we are really creative and talented. It's just for us to gather all of this information and put it in a original expression that enjoys copyright protection. And all of this have elements of copyright in it, but we have not fine-tuned it to the point where someone can make money. The same thing with the lady's photograph that was put on OpenSea to be minted, all of those issues. So that's another conversation for another day, which I'll delve into. But moving on to the next one, if you want to get something, you have to go for it. You need to consider all of this, from the idea stage to the pre-market to the post-market stage. So if, like someone said, that if the guy that created that was counting and turned it into a song, LP 78, LP, all of those shit, and he's like, okay, people really like, let me enter studio, crazy. Because I saw a post where, what's this guy's name now, this investigative journalist, he was like, can someone share the video with me if Nigerians don't create a sound bit out of this? And I was like, how are you people pushing people to do things they're not supposed to be doing? So when I'm gonna hear, na me get that, not me get that, na me blow, before they put it on a streaming platform and then issues may arise. So consider all of these factors before while trying to build a creative business. Um, while passion is good, you need to identify the relevant areas and build a niche for yourself in the creative industry. So, like I earlier said, that one of the speakers that stood out for me again was Honey. Honey was mentioning roles. I don't know, were just for the females, but I was like, man, this girl is sound. That was what was coming to my head when I was hearing Honey talk, and I was like, okay, I'm really impressed. So the creative industry is big, and your first point of call for intellectual property is copyright. Know that each element of the creative sector enjoys some sort of copyright protection. Other rights or other kind of law that applies to it: the data protection aspect, the labor law, employment law, contract, environmental, uh, several other interplays. Then child day there. Then document every stage and enjoy the initial creative control you have at the moment. So you may be a startup creative business, and before you know, you're getting deals to be an influencer for someone, or an ambassador for someone, or a representative, or you're getting sponsorship deals, all of those things. And this is your creative control is now being restricted and limited because you have to give to take. So you are the ambassador for, say, a big perfume company in Nigeria, or a big real estate company in Nigeria, or you're doing adverts for someone. Your creativity, you're not going to be as flexible as you want to be, because one, it has to be tailored to what was prescribed in your agreement. If you did sign an agreement, that's another thing. Moving on from that, next tip I'll be giving you is that ensure that you engage a lawyer that specializes in helping creatives. Very important. I know that one of the speakers, I'm not going to mention her name because I follow her on Instagram, but she made a statement as to you don't really need a lawyer, and I was glad that Honey countered her and said that's not true. But later on, she was like, "Oh, you might need an entertainment lawyer. Not the only entertainment lawyer there for creative industry. Seriously, you have different types of. So, like I stated, you have the copyright aspect. Then you have people that are specializing as the film, the music, the broadcasting, um, visual arts, um, softwares, and the rest of them. Those are now specialized core copyright practitioners. But generally, your first point of call is to interact with a lawyer that helps create, either as an intellectual property lawyer, or a copyright lawyer, or an entertainment lawyer, or a film lawyer, as the case may be, depending on the level. So have that person from the get-go. So let the person consult for you, pay a stipend or whatever the person prescribes that is within your budget. The same way businesses don't like people saying, this is your thing cost. So lawyers also don't like hearing that. I don't like it as well. If it's not within your budget, just say it's not within my budget. Would you be able to? Because we're human beings. I'm a human being. I'm not a robot. But my money will be fine. Shall tell me what you want, and I'll find a way to work around your fees. But don't be condescending, or I don't know. But anyways, register the other basic things such as your business, creative business, trademark the name of your business, your logo as well, protect any visual designs or appearance of a product you have, deposit any copyrighted material you may have, sign non-disclosure agreement or include non-disclosure clauses in your agreement. I was going to say non-compete clauses, but I think based on conversations going on in the US, I may not really want to talk about it, about how restrictive it may seem. But it's for the Nigerian sector, I think it's very, very important that you include a non-compete clause in your agreement. If you work in the creative sector, learn about copyright first, which is what this podcast is basically about. Just do like a crash course, introductory course into it. Then trademark, then advertising and marketing law. I mean, the world is evolving. and with issues as to due diligence and public disclosures now when you're doing adverts. Because when you're doing adverts, you're giving people the impression that you guarantee that this business is legit, or this product is legit, or this content is fire. But you also have to deal with issues as to deep fakes, hacking, etc., etc. You also need to learn data privacy and law of torts. Defamatory comments, all those things. Law of torts, civil cases, and the rest of them. Also, ways to commercialize and exploit the digital economy. I mean, I'm not going to say the sky is your limit. The sky is your stepping stone if you're in the creative industry. Then don't be afraid to use tech. Don't be afraid to embrace tech, especially now you're hearing Chat GPT. There are a lot of other AI assisted tools, but you gotta be careful. You really have to be careful while you're using it. For instance, my next IPC which I will be sharing in a couple of days features the Midjourney AI assisted work, Zara of the Dawn, that was submitted to the US Copyright Office. It was initially accepted but rejected, but I'm just going to stop there. So wait until you see the news. I'm not going to say much. Okay, moving on. If you want to engage as a distributor or you're an influencer, marketer, content creator, an ambassador, please sign an agreement that clearly defines your role, your creative control, the term of duration, your rates as is your fee and royalty, consent form, privacy notice. I think one beautiful thing I noticed about that event was that when we got in, we were given a form to consent, but it kind of felt like it was mandatory and not voluntary. I didn't feel it because I kind of felt like they were coercing, like, okay, you must give me the permission to it's not compulsory. I still retain certain right as a data subject. So I came across this post on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is another place I really find interesting. Like LinkedIn, Twitter, like and I think all the social media platforms are wonderful. But what that post was basically saying is, so it says, so it was posted by Nathan Ross Ad. So it says, I love practical ways to protect privacy. Here's an example of privacy by design in practice. At an event, the organizers created red lanyards for people who prefer not to be photographed during this event. So now in your creative business, you're organizing an event. Don't make it mandatory that someone must take pictures. Sometimes you even tell photographers, I don't want my pictures to be taken. And they're like, but you come here now. Or at least just put up a sign that say, it's just something that makes the person feel at ease, and let's just ease into the whole thing. Like, okay, it won't be bad if these people take my picture, to help them with their publicity and all that. Then relevant contract, I was going to talk about the consent form. When you want to showcase or broadcast or share content that a third party is involved in, or you're using a third party that's a model or something. Sometimes you find out that creative business owners are kind of pushing, like, okay, when you get this product, send me a picture or video. It's not your birthright. If I want to do it, I'll do it for you because I'm impressed. But when you kind of make it seem compulsory, then you just kind of lose me there. Licensing agreement, distribution, non-disclosure agreements, employment agreements, work for hire if you want, whatever relationship you're building, but yeah, that's about it for my tips, and I'm going to move on into the other type of copyright I was really talking about. So the copyright and related right in a sense where it kind of feels like your rights are protected, the rights of certain persons are protected based on the fact that they contribute to making the work available to the public, or they produce certain types of copyrighted work while not being the original creators themselves. It's called related rights or neighboring rights because of the activities of either the performers, the producers of sound recording, broadcasting organization. You're adapting the performance or reproducing it in any material form, and also showcases how it doesn't also affect how your copyrighted work, and that's the protection of your copyrighted work. um it is also recognized as a creative intervention which gives life to a copyrighted work such as musical, dramatical, or choreography works or pictures, um, because they have some level of legal protection in their individual interpretation. I hope that makes sense, anyways. Now, also under the Nigerian Copyright Act, um, a performer's right is protected for the lifetime of the person. That's the performer, either as the artist, the record producer, the broadcasting organization, the choreographers, the category I earlier listed, their lifetime plus 50 years. I don't know if you guys remember the choreography case. I think it's 2021. It should be. Yeah, where I think that was like the rise of Reels and TikTok, and there was this where black content creators were protesting that they were not being duly accredited, acknowledged and credited as the authors of some choreography steps, and they had to go to court, and there was a case that was won. Can't remember right now. Try and figure it out before the end of this post. But if I don't, please check out my content on social media where I talked about it, either the newsletter or my Instagram page. And I posted it when it was when the judgment came out. Yeah, I talked about it when the judgment came out. So how can one infringe a performance right when you make a recording of the whole or substantial part of their live performance? So you go for a concert and you record say Davido performing or Burna Boy doing yeah oh Odogu you bad last everybody go chop stop there Rita. But anyway, you go for a concert and you record the concert from beginning to the end. I know there was a time when these questions arose in 2014 where questions as in protection of short videos. Apologies for the noise in the background, guys. Protection of short videos being shared on Vine or Instagram. Who owned the right? Is it the broadcasting station or the players or the person that posted? Those kind of things. So you go for a concert and you're doing a live stream of that concert. You shouldn't be doing that naturally. That is considered to be an infringement. So unless you get consent to make that recording, that you want to use it for, say, research purpose, private use, domestic use, your consent shall not be considered to be reasonably refused. So your application to record the live performance, or you go for a musical drama, one of these terraculture performers, and you start recording everything from being, or you go and watch Seki and you can record Seki. I know Mr. Yibo Koko is very he's a proactive IP owner, proactive protector of his Seki brand. You go and record Seki from the beginning to the end. You basically don't have a right to do that. If you want to do that, you need to pre-inform the performers that, I want to record you guys. Especially if you're not in the media and you're coming to report, you should get consent. You broadcast live or you include live in a cable program. So it's just like you watch your Premier League. You can't sub-license or broadcast live without the consent of the broadcasting station, either some part of it or substantial part of the live performance of the drama or the recording or performing act or the reproduction or adaptation, musical or choreographed work. You perform in public the whole or substantial part of the live performance, not acceptable. You show or plays in public where the whole or substantial part of the live performance for commercial purpose. I think when I talk about it, I think this what comes to mind would be the Barlow and Bear case. Although it's a bit tricky if I use this as an example. I think it might be a bit tricky and overreaching for me, but yeah, let me just carry on with the example. Or you broadcast or include in a cable program a substantial part of the performance by means of recording which that person knows or has reason to believe was made without the prior consent. For instance, you go for let's say you went for the Beyonce homecoming concert. I think that's one of my best live performing album. Like I like from beginning to the end, it just puts me in a zone. Not minding what the pastor said anyway about people being unchristian, like for wanting to go to Beyonce's concert, but what ifs. You import into the country otherwise than for your private use or domestic use a recording of a performance work, which is an infringing recording. So any recording of any sort of a performance work, choreography, musical, dramatic, adaptation, stage play, whatever it is, it's an infringement. If in the course of trade or business you sell or let for hire, distribute or display for sale or hire a recording of a performance work, it's also an infringing record. So take note of all of that. Is also the criminal liability. You can be sued for civil and criminal liability. Criminal, you might be asked to pay a fine. If you're an individual, not exceeding 10,000. I think this has been updated anyways, though the copyright bill is yet to be assented to by President Buhari. Body copyright 50,000. In all cases, to a fine of 100 for each copy dealt with the controversial. Whereas actionable performance, infringement of a performance right, you're entitled to the right of a breach of statutory duty, and the performer is entitled to damages, injunction, account for profit or conversion, and where a person has in his possession, custody or control in the course of trade other than for private use, that person having the performer's right or recording rights in relation to the performer under the law, they shall be entitled to an order of the course that the recording be forfeited and delivered up to. So you have justified remedies if someone infringes on your performance right. So if you're an artist, if you're a choreographer, you're a performer, whatever it is you do that falls under this category, here are the things, the acts that if people do, they are infringing on your act, and also what you're entitled to. Then I'm just going to talk briefly about folklore. Folklore protects any reproduction or communication to the public by performance, broadcasting, distribution by cable or other means, any adaptation, translation of, say, a folk poetry, riddles, music, dances, production of folk art in form of drawings, paintings, carvings, sculptures, poetry, mosaic, woodwork, metalwork, handicraft, costume, indigenous textiles. So if you're a creative and you also want to delve into this sector, please consider this, and know that the right to authorize any kind of work, folklore work, rests with the Nigerian Copyright Commission. You need their consent to actually do anything. Folklore basically includes a group-oriented or traditional-based group or individual that are reflecting the expectation of the community. So they're basically trying to preserve the social identity of the community, their standards and their values, either by transmitting it orally or by imitation, or creating a copyrighted version of it in the works that are listed. Same way, infringement. If a person without the consent of the Nigerian Copyright Commission uses any expression of folklore in any manner not permitted under the law, they shall be in breach of statutory duty and liable to the council in damages, injunction, and any other remedies as the court may deem fit. And the court in this instance will be the Federal High Court. The Federal High Court has the jurisdiction to hear all copyright related disputes. So I have an episode, I think it's like the first episode, where I talked about rights of copyright holders and what they need to know about collecting society. So you guys can check that out. Know that the Nigerian Copyright Commission is responsible for all matters affecting copyright in Nigeria. They monitor and supervise the Nigerian position in relation to international conventions. They also advise and regulate conditions for the conclusion of bilateral and multilateral agreements in Nigeria and other countries. They enlighten and inform the public on matters relating to copyright. They maintain an effective data bank on authors and their work. That is, if you deposit a copy with them, they have a data bank for that. They're also responsible for any matter that relates to copyright in Nigeria, as the minister from time to time direct. Right, you already know the eligible copyright works, and the current DJ who is Mr. John Essien, I think that's how it's pronounced, while collecting bodies or collecting societies or collecting management organization are formed in respect of one or more rights holder, copyright holders. So it could be literary right holders, musical right holders, um, who may apply to the Copyright Commission for approval to operate as a collecting body. So they also need the consent of the Nigerian Copyright Commission to function as a collecting society. I do recall that last year the Nigerian Copyright Commission has stated that COSON was no longer a collecting body, collecting society in Nigeria. So if you're affiliated with them, please do the needful. We also have a law on levy on materials, optical desk plans, collecting management organization, and also dispute resolution panel. As a dispute resolution practitioner, I think this is a good development. So while we are gearing up to wrap up, let's delve into the next conversation as to the challenges that creative females face, especially because this month we're celebrating International Women's Day, and next month we're celebrating women in IP. I'm grading from chin to chin. So one other thing that stood out for me was challenges that females creatives face, but I'm just going to generalize it and say challenges that I don't know. What do you guys think? Okay, let me just focus on what I initially wanted to do first. Most, I don't want to say most females, but it kind of feels like some females don't have a business mindset. They also have issues as to environment or jurisdictional hazard, where maybe the family they are married into, or the family they are born into, or the area they live in, females are not business minded, so they are just too relaxed. They're not thinking of what to do to get busy. They're not exploring the human intellect and gifts that God gave to them. Inadequate lack of support. There's nobody to support them, either from their family or their environment, or mentorship or support, financial support, peer support, accountability partners, and all of those things. Expectation from women as to their gender roles. Societal demands and family. So you're married, how do you combine being a creative business owner and also a wife and a mother and a daughter-in-law and a sister-in-law, and all of this is, how do you balance that? I mean, I was reading something today which was really insightful. So the person recommended that we read the book called Fair Play. I haven't read it, but I'm actually going to read it. But he went further to explain certain things as to how women overwork. Sometimes a man goes out to work for 40 hours and a woman basically has like over 260 something hours per. I think that was how he was calculated. But I don't know, Sha. But basically what he was trying to say is this. Females, that's what we're talking about, societal demands and family right now, and expectation of women. There's this narrative that if you're a creative person, you still need to be more of a housewife than a business person, because one, if you're not married or around a supportive partner or friend or sibling or parent or relatives or environment, there's a whole lot of responsibility that is put on you, where your desire to be a creative business entrepreneur is not supported. It's considered that this other role should come first before any other role, and it kind of discourages you and then suppresses your human intellect to be creative, to produce, to create things, to be business focused and minded. Then limited access to funding. Thankfully, I think that is changing. There are a lot of events now, training now considering female funding and sponsorship. Then information gap and mentorship, lack of recognition in leadership role, though the narrative is changing. So you're working in a company and you're doing so much, but you find out that the males in your office are giving more accolade than you, who put in so much. Or sometimes you find out that Someone might want to take credit for the work you've put in, and all of those things. So those are some of the challenges that you face. People don't really give you access to rooms because they feel, oh, you can't be out at XYZ time because you're female. You shouldn't put yourself in certain situation that tomorrow will be on Twitter thread or Facebook or one blog out there, But then there's no gender in IP. So luckily, I came across another article. It was a document by the US Copyright Office highlighting, let's see now, highlighting, I actually had to screenshot it, highlighting women in the copyright system and analysis of women authors in copyright registration from 1978 to 2020. It was really insightful. They also went as far as sharing the category of works. So they listed multimedia and kids artwork, two-dimensional artwork, non-dramatic literary work, sound recording and non-dramatic text, dramatic work and accompanying music, serial musical work, sound recording, motion picture or film strip, sound recording and music, cartographic works, machine readable works or computer program, architectural model, architectural drawing. What's the next one now? So copyright registration in artwork, dramatic work and accompanying music, machine readable work, motion picture. I think I kind of listed some, but the one that had the highest registration was non-dramatic literary work, which was 51.2%. Interesting, right? Yeah. So with all of these things, the challenge is, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay inspired? How do you continue to remain consistent as a creative using intellectual property? One, you need to stay consistent, build a community, leverage on community, collaborate, break the stereotype, be selfish by putting your dreams and goals first. And I think conversations have always been had as to how females are not selfish enough, but you find out that men, whether in relationship or business, they always think of themselves first. So you need to start thinking, putting you first before the other person. Educate and build capacity, be assertive, network and explore social media, work on your self-esteem, be bold, engage policy makers, write, talk. I mean, if people say you are aggressive, own it with your full chest. This girl is bazaar queen. She's everywhere. Own it. I mean, it's not easy staying consistent. I can tell you for a fact. There's some days where you don't want to even do anything, but sometimes you just need to get up and do it for yourself and say, okay, I'm doing this because I want to, I want to be the emperor, the champion, in that industry. Okay. So we're wrapping up in a few minutes, and I hope I'm able to make a lot of sense. But if I haven't, again, you can send me a DM to at IP Series Info. Yeah, IP Series _with_ reader. Reader is REEDAH, or at IP Series 1, or my personal DM. I had to change my handle recently for this branding thing. I think it's at Esmeralda. Okay, so it's at Anwuri_ASQ or at Esmeraldo Anwuri, while Instagram is at Esmeraldo ESQ. Yeah. So LinkedIn, you can just search for my full name, Rita Anwuri Chinda. Yeah, send me a message. If you have my WhatsApp number, my WhatsApp number, WhatsApp me too, but not after 10 o'clock. I won't respond to you till 9. That's just me setting my boundaries, and I hope you guys. And I think that's something female creators need to do. Set boundaries while you're in your certain industry. Don't let people walk over you. Nah. Anyways, let's wrap up. Okay, so it happened again. Super upset right now, but I can't remember what I was talking about though. Hey, Tamuno. But anyways, let's wing it. Basically, what I talked about was role of copyright in the creative industry. How, based on the definition of IP, it gives creatives, it promotes creativity, adds value to an economy, as long as you're using that copyrighted work for commerce or commercial purpose, and it's as a result of your human effort, not you using AI assisted tools, because we have, though it's not a Nigerian case, but it's something that we need to take note of. And also, copyright is like the currency for creatives. It also helps them in making a living in their industry. And I talked about regulatory bodies, which include the Trademark, Patent and Design Registry, the National Office for Technology Acquisition and Promotion, NOTAB, the Nigerian Copyright Commission, and the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission as well. Then my recommendation, I was going to my recommendation before I found out that my recording did not record, which is upsetting. It's like the second time it's happening to me today. So I'm also advising you guys to, especially those who live in Rivers State, we now have the Small Claims Court, which is strictly for monetary dispute, liquidated monetary dispute not exceeding 5 million naira. What disputes that cannot be filed there are promise to marry or enforcing a promise, person promise you money, concern Small Claims Court. Your claim past 5 million naira, like the monetary sum is more than 5 million, concern us. You can't split it and say, okay, 5 million or 3.5. No, you can't do that. It's not even for rent dispute, Ozilla. It's not to reclaim your property. Follow too. It's not to go and file a suit, say I'm in pain, I'm in severe pain. Follow. We're not going to listen to you. Not that you're suffering, we don't want to hear. Pray or meet your spiritual advisor or go and see a doctor or a psychologist. Anybody to help you, but not the Small Claims Court. We are just focused. Our focus be safe. Your claim, person the monetary claim of 5 million, come make we hear, and it's done in like 60 days. In 60 days, bam, your matter don't finish. You can enforce. You get. So my recommendation going forward for creatives include as follows. So first recommendation is that there are opportunities in the media space. Pick an area, build and carve a niche in the creative industry and build your creative business. Harness your multitasking. They always say females are multitaskers. They're not multitaskers. If they cook, they pamper your pikin, they write or they read or something. Harness is like exploit it to the highest. I don't want to say barest minimum, but what I'm saying is that harness your multitasking skill. So you can attain the greatest height as a digital boss lady. Yes. Go the extra mile for yourself. Utilize the internet by upskilling with tech and emerging frontiers. Do your research about Web3, blockchain, metaverse. It's International Women's Day soon, and everyone is already have like different industries and people already setting up conversations or sessions as to how to be there for females, embrace tech, etc. Engage communities and platforms. Now this is the era of platforms where people engage the community they've built, their fan base, they interact with the fans and the rest of them. Restructure your business by having a good intellectual property strategy for longevity of your brand. We need to also create a culture of creativity. Know the difference between branding and your business. And finally, step out of your your comfort zone, by taking intellectual property serious. Most IPs will last for as long as you make it last, other than the renewal fee you might pay for some type of intellectual property mechanisms. But you gotta have long-term goals for your brand. So I hope I've made a lot of sense. I really do hope so. And so we have come to the end of today's episode. I hope you found it really insightful. If you want a special one-on-one class on copyright basics or how IP applies to your industry, I'm always here at a fee to tutor you. But yeah, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, send me reviews and feedback. I really do hope. I'm looking forward to your feedback from this episode. And yeah, see you in the next episode, guys. Bye.